afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for starting off the beginning of this week very warmly with us to talk about the future of buildings in Montgomery County. We are at the site of the forthcoming Hillandale Gateway, which is the first of many projects in the county that strive for innovation and exceed expectations. As you read through our climate action plan that was released this time last year, you'll notice the highest ranking climate actions for GHG emission reductions come from the electrification of buildings. Electrifying our buildings, along with increasing the amount of clean energy on the electricity grid and moving away from fossil fuel dependence, are not only good for the climate, but they make our buildings safer and healthier for the people who live, work, and play in Montgomery County. Today's a pretty momentous day, not only because of our notable lineup of speakers, but because we're entering a new era of building design and construction that will bring our ambitious climate goals to life. To tell you more about this innovative legislation, I'd like to introduce Montgomery County Executive Marc Elrich, who spearheaded the Climate Action Plan and literally walks the talk when it comes to making buildings more sustainable, including his own home, followed by Councilmember Riemer, the legislation lead sponsor and the chair of the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee.
So I'm now in my, I think, 6th week of an electric home with my solar panels. And I've now discovered that probably the most important next climate action is outlawing rain during the day so that it doesn't take away from my solar energy generation, and let it rain at night. And then it settles more in the ground and it perks through to the plants and it's not evaporated by the sun. So there are lots of benefits if we could do that, but probably not. I'm really happy to stand here today. I'm glad that Councilmember Riemer is joining me in this issue. This is one of the most important things that we are going to do. We have 3 major sectors that are problematic, and transportation is partly going to solve itself, and we have the ability to accelerate it, but we know what to do over there, and it's pretty straightforward. It's either you get a big enough power supply, whether it's electric or gas, not gas, but fuel cells. If it's electric or fuel cells, and then you move forward with that, or you look at the next biggest sector is housing and buildings, and these are the ones that are harder to do. The fact that you can do a new building like this is going to set the standard. I've always told people that we can regulate things and put in new requirements when we see what works. And having a model of what works makes it a lot easier to tell people this is what you need to do. It's no longer hypothetical. It's no longer a wish. We're not asking people to wander into a forest where they're not going to know the way out. This project, and I'll also add the Marriott project in Bethesda, are projects where people have demonstrated the ability to do all-electric buildings, and that is critically important. So I'm really happy to be here. I really appreciate Shane Poland, who's here, Shane Poland, because it took a vision to do this. I mean, he knows how to build buildings. He's been building the other buildings for a long time. He's also been innovating for a while. And to make this decision that this complex is going to be done in the best way possible for the environment, that's real leadership. And I think, you know, and because of where you sit in the building industry, you also become an example. It's somebody that other people look at and say, why'd you do this? You know, what's the value in it? And he'll be able to tell a story even better than the government's able to tell a story. In fact, I feel this way about a lot of the climate things in general. It's one thing for the government to tell you to put solar panels on a house. It's another thing when your neighbor shows you his bill and you realize that in the same house with an electric panel on it, they're actually saving money. And that's what we need, is as people like this to actually be the examples and the models to tell other people that this is doable and it works. And that's why I'm excited to be here. All electric buildings will become the future. We're going to start with the new buildings, and we'll play a role in helping transition existing buildings over to electric. And I want to say one other thing I like about this project. He could have had an all-electric building but not generated the electricity here. And electricity off our grid right now is dirty. It's the same way I felt about my electric car. It's like, I've got an electric car and I could say I'm all electric and I'm not polluting, but as long as my electricity came off the grid, it's more of a problem. This building is going to be generating electricity. it is not going to be losing electricity through miles of transmission lines. And so what's produced here is going to get used here. So it's really significant on all fronts, both the equipment they're using and what they're willing to put in the way of solar. It's going to make this a milestone for Montgomery County, and I am really happy to be here to be able to, I guess we're not breaking ground today, but certainly celebrate the beginning of this project. So thank you so much. I'm going to turn it over to Hans, who's going to follow me here. But people should note this is the beginning of a new era here, and you're here and you've seen it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Marc. We'll start off by just saying thanks.
Thank you.
Marc and I have worked together on the building energy performance standards, and we got that passed through the county council, and now we're following that up with the all-electric building code. And these are two transformative policies that are going to put Montgomery County in a leadership position of local governments taking action, and I'm really pleased to be part of it. Today is really exciting for me. I am just thrilled because, as County Executive Elrich was saying, there have been private sector leaders who have been blazing a trail. And what this legislation does is say, okay, we're following that trail. Everyone's going to follow that trail that you've blazed. And Shane, you've been ahead of the curve for many years, but it's time for your peers in the sector to catch up. And our legislation here is going to help bring that about. But it's not an overreach. We've got lots of buildings going up that are all electric. The brand new Marriott headquarters, as was mentioned, is all electric, because what has happened in recent years is technology has really progressed. And now we have within our means the ability to decarbonize our transportation sector, to decarbonize our building sector, and to transform our energy grid into 100% clean energy. And when you put all three of those things together, that is the magic formula that is going to change our trajectory and get these emissions that are driving our climate crisis under control. So we can't get there without strong action, and that's why we are seeking to transform the building sector. We've got a lot of work ahead of us on the transportation sector, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us on energy generation. But we have the most immediate direct control over buildings, and I think this legislation is going to take a big step forward. I want to thank all of the advocates. Mike Tidwell with Chesapeake Climate Action. Mike's been, where'd he go? Right, there he is, right behind a sign, as always, raising a sign. Mike has been banging on us for a couple years to get this done after Governor Hogan's task force came out and said Maryland should adopt an all-electric building standard by 2024. Well, how could Montgomery County not adopt one if Governor Hogan's task force proposed that we should all do that across the state? And so we're taking local action, and we want the rest of the state, and we want the whole region to follow through and follow us. But someone's got to lead, and that's what we're doing here today in Montgomery County. It's important to note there are important exemptions. We want to push, but we also have a pragmatic approach here. The life sciences industry, manufacturing concerns. There are really intensive energy users, and we want to make sure that Montgomery County will continue to be a place where you have a predictable and reliable environment to do that kind of work. So we have provided for some important exemptions, just as other jurisdictions have done: New York, San Francisco, Seattle, San Jose. But when this is all in place, we will be moving forward much more aggressively. And last thing I want to say, as a homeowner, I use a induction stovetop. It's better than gas. It is way better than gas. It doesn't create emissions in your own kitchen. Why would you want to stand over burning gas all day, sweating in the heat? Induction cooks faster, it's more accurate, and it is far superior. So folks are going to see the benefit over time when they move into a new home and they have, predictable, affordable heating, cooling, terrific technology for their cooking. So thank you to the county executive. Thank you to his amazing team. The team at DEP is, the best, leading the way. And thank you to the advocates, Chesapeake Climate Action, the Climate Action Plan Coalition, and everybody for helping move us forward. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you both for your leadership and your partnership on this legislation, which is the first in Maryland to be proposed for an all-electric building code. So thank you for that. That's incredible. So I'm really pleased. Hillandale Gateway's gotten a lot of love this afternoon, and we're grateful to our host for holding this announcement here. This project shows that all-electric design isn't just a pie-in-the-sky idea, but an economically smart and climate-focused strategy for development. To talk more about what's to come for this site, I'd like to welcome one of my favorite collaborators, Shane Poland, Principal of PS Ventures, representing the Hillandale Gateway Partnership between the Housing Opportunities Commission and the Duffy Companies. Welcome.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hillandale. Welcome to Hillandale Gateway. Thank you for all the kind words. We're building all-electric buildings here, and we're not doing it because of the legislation, but because it makes sense to us as a partnership. And Hillandale Gateway is a partnership between members of the Duffy family, who are my own family, and the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County. And what these two stakeholders have in common is long-term owners. And I'm pleased to be working with the partnership, representing the partnership as PS Ventures. We're trying to do something interesting here, which is 463 all-electric homes built to the highest levels of sustainability. What that means is that we're targeting Passive House certification. We're targeting LEED for Homes Platinum. We're trying to certify to Energy Star multifamily. And we're going to try to generate enough energy on this site to power one of the two buildings to make it zero net energy. And these are not easy things, and we're not sure we can accomplish all of our goals, but if we don't try, we'll never know. And we think that there is the technology and there is the will, certainly among our partnership, to try. While Hillandale Gateway is certainly taking a next step forward, it's really the evolution in a series of buildings that are built right here in Hillandale, really under the leadership of the Duffy Companies and family. Starting over 15 years ago, with the 10,001 New Hampshire Avenue project, which we chose, and again, I was working with the Duffy family and companies for over 17 years, leading the new developments with Duffy. But we built a speculative LEED certified project across the street here in Hillandale. And we did that before it was required. We did it because it just made sense, and it seemed like why wouldn't we build to the best that we can do? We progressed to the next buildings in the portfolio, including the hotel, Home 2 Suites, just across the street, which we believe is the very first flagged LEED Platinum hotel in North America. And Hillandale Gateway is going to be the next giant step forward, progressing to Passive House and all electric for multifamily on this scale. But we really feel the same way that we did for the other buildings, which is we would rather be doing the best we can, even if it means we're being the first of the new generation of buildings, rather than being the last of the old generation of buildings. And we've done it again and again. It can't happen without a team. We haven't seen this type of building here in Montgomery County, partly understandably because there are not a lot of buildings like this, and therefore you don't have the design teams, right, with the knowledge requisite to build this type of building. Projects like Hillandale Gateway will help change that. We've got a great design team from all over the country. We've got electrification expert from California, Sean Armstrong. Our mechanical, electrical, and plumbing firm is from Philadelphia, McGran. We had to bring in expertise in Passive House design because it wasn't available locally. NK Passive out of Pittsburgh. And we've also brought them together with local partners like Tordy Gallis and Partners. And very close by, Charles P. Johnson and Associates, civil engineers, just across on Elton Road. So we've brought everybody together, and we do recognize that there is benefit of having buildings like ours. We're not the first to build an all-electric multifamily. We're not the first to use any of these particular technologies, but we might be the first here to do it. We might be the first to do it in this innovative combination of ways. And we're really happy that we could be doing it in Eastern Montgomery County, where really this investment is much needed. and I think can help set the way for a lot of other projects that are looking for how to move forward in the future. So we're happy to serve the role here and support the legislation in this small way of showing that it's possible, and we really appreciate everybody's support. Again, particularly to HOC, the project could not be possible without the support of our friends and partners at the Housing Opportunities Commission, for our friends at the Duffy Companies, and for all of you for supporting this and understanding that this is something that's possible, it's something that we can do, and it's something that we should do, so we are. So just thank you all for your support.
Amazing. Thank you, Shane. And if you haven't had a chance to go across the street and look at the Home 2 Suites, you absolutely should. It's one of the most beautiful hotels I've ever seen. I'm so thrilled that you're on track to become the first multi-unit passive house building in Montgomery County. We have a couple single families lurking around, but the first multi-family passive house project, which is amazing. It's a real-life example for other buildings to follow. Of course, as Councilmember Riemer had mentioned, the climate advocacy community and the county has long promoted more sustainable buildings through electrification and renewables. To speak more about the importance of this legislation, I'm thrilled to introduce Mike Tidwell, Executive Director of the Chesapeake Climate Action Network and CCAN Action Fund, followed by Doris Nguyen, representing the Climate Action Plan Coalition, rounded out by Joelle Novi with Interfaith Power and Light.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here today. I want to thank especially County Executive Marc Elrich for co-sponsoring this initiative, and Councilmember Hans Riemer for their leadership on this. You know, people in our county, when anything goes wrong, we blame local government, right? Like there's traffic, who do we blame? We blame these guys. You know, there's a pothole, we blame local government for virtually everything. Well, starting today with this full electrification of new buildings initiative, future people in this county will blame the two of you for dramatically lower energy prices, which is what this bill will do. They will blame you for better indoor health experiences because we won't have indoor combustion in these new homes. No carbon monoxide, no nitrogen in our houses. What a concept. They'll blame you for that. Future Montgomery County residents will blame you for the beginning of the end of catastrophic gas explosions in our homes and in our apartment buildings, which we've seen enough of in this county. And finally, they will blame you, County Executive Elrich and Councilmember Riemer, for taking one of the boldest steps to date in the fight against climate change in this region. Mandating that all new buildings be all electric is nationally significant. That's what this bill 1322 will do. Now, we all know to solve climate change, we must electrify everything. We've got the banners here to prove it, right? Electrify everything. The only combustion we need is right above us from the sun. That will get all our solar from that combustion. It'll create the wind patterns that we need for wind power. We don't need any combustion down here. And once again, on a really important issue in the state, Montgomery County is not waiting for others. The state of Maryland, as Councilmember Riemer mentioned, has signaled its intent to move in this direction, but they're not going fast enough. Montgomery County doesn't wait on important issues. We're joining New York City. We're joining counties and municipalities in California in blazing the path. So I want to thank County Executive Marc Elrich especially for vetting this through the county government. The county attorneys have signed off on this. The county agencies have kicked the tires. We are ready to make this law. Thank you, County Executive Elrich. And I want to especially blame Hans Riemer for being a true pioneer on this issue. When we brought this issue to him of making sure the Green Bank was investing only in full electrification with $20 million a year, he championed that cause and we got the job done. Much credit to the Green Bank for that as well. And Hans took up this mantle of all electric new buildings and ran with it and has brought us to this day where we can celebrate and get the job done. So I really want to thank you for your leadership, and let's get this bill passed. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, County Executive Elrich and Councilman Hans Riemer, for the invitation to speak today and for the significant legislative initiative to electrify buildings that in Montgomery County you are launching today. We applaud the partnership between the executive and legislative branches of county government, which hopefully will expedite passage and implementation of this important climate bill. My name is Doris Nguyen. I represent the Montgomery County Climate Action Plan Coalition. I know that's a long name, CAP Coalition. And I'm a member of the Montgomery County chapter of the Climate Mobilization. In 2017, we helped push for the climate emergency resolution where the county committed to reducing greenhouse gases by 80% by 2027 and 100% by 2035. The CAP Coalition includes 14 local and grassroots organizations. We are dedicated to working with the county executive, the Department of Environmental Protection, members of the county council, and other key decision makers and stakeholders to ensure robust and equitable implementation of the CAP consistent with emergency action. The CAP notes that buildings make up 50% of the county's greenhouse gas emissions inventory. This bill, which the County Council will be asked to approve, represents a positive step forward in addressing the county's climate goals by requiring the county executive to issue all electric building standards within 18 months that will apply to new construction, major renovations, and additions. Eliminating gas, furnaces, water heaters, and other major appliances in buildings will have measurable impact in greenhouse gas emission. Building electrification will contribute to a healthier community ecosystem while generating new green jobs in building construction and reducing energy costs. Councilman Riemer is proposing a bill that in its very title refers to the need for comprehensive. A bill on comprehensive building decarbonization. We certainly agree, at a time that we face a climate emergency, with taking immediate, bold action that is indeed comprehensive. It must also be consequential. It must also be equitable, ensuring that high-performance buildings are available to and affordable for all residents of the county. Across America, there is a growing movement to electrify buildings, and with swift action, Montgomery County can take an important national leadership role in this. The CAP Coalition stands ready to work with you as this bill moves through the legislative process and as discussions take place how to best address backup power, timelines for implementation, which, if any types of buildings should be exempted for electrification requirements. Such exemptions should be kept to a minimum. Going forward, it will be important for the county to take action to retrofit existing residential buildings and find creative solutions for incentivizing homeowners to electrify. We look forward to a day soon when all buildings in the county are all electric, taking us closer to the 80% by 2027 and 100% by 2035 goal. Again, congratulations on this new climate bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I have appreciated all of the remarks that preceded me today, and I particularly appreciated that no one tried to describe the gas that we're burning in our homes now as natural, because there is nothing natural about it. Methane gas is a fossil fuel, and burning it anywhere, including in our kitchens, is bad news for all of us who breathe air and want to do our part to repair our climate. So let's face it, it's not natural, and it leaks. Methane gas leaks from stoves in our homes even when they're off, putting any kids we live with at higher risk for asthma. Every time we cook on such stoves, we're not only making our families dinner, but also forcing them to breathe nitrogen oxide, as Mike said. Methane gas leaks from furnaces and water heaters in our congregations and our schools. And methane gas leaks outside from crumbling pipes underneath our streets. And I know this personally because just south of here, my synagogue was one of over a dozen congregations to walk their DC neighborhoods with a methane detector over the past year, finding 389 leaks across the district in all 8 wards, 14 of which were at or over the methane concentration at which an explosion is possible. We have every reason to think gas is likewise leaking all over Montgomery County. Methane gas leaks from its production sites, from every pipeline, violently damaging our climate. Methane traps many more many times more heat per ton than carbon dioxide. It's not natural, and it leaks always and everywhere. And as long as there are gas lines beneath Silver Spring and beneath all of our neighborhoods, we can't have a safe or sustainable county, even if we're committed on paper to addressing the climate emergency. Imagine a future where we've turned away from burning entirely, where we've electrified everything and draw clean energy from a shared grid. We'll have to create that future one step at a time. So let's start today by just agreeing that no one building a new building in Montgomery County should be laying more pipes, expanding our fossil fuel infrastructure, locking another generation of families into breathing dirty air around gas stoves. It's not natural, but it's also not necessary. Any new home today can be heated with efficient, all-electric heat pumps. Any new kitchen today can be outfitted with a state-of-the-art induction stove, and the county executive is cooking on one. And we will fight to make sure affordable housing is part of this transition, not as the last in line to electrify, stuck on our crumbling gas grid for years. It is a moral priority to ensure clean indoor air for the households that need it most. The faith communities working together through Interfaith Power and Light and our partners at Montgomery County Faith Alliance for Climate Solutions are already living our call to turn away from burning and towards a livable future at home, in our sanctuaries.
The Montgomery County Green Bank is absolutely where the rubber's going to meet the road on this type of legislation, with the dollars that are going into our community and making sure that they put our climate action plan into reality. So, Tom, come on up.
All right. County Executive, thank you. Thank you all. I appreciate you being here. My name's Tom Deo. I'm the CEO of the Montgomery County Green Bank. I really just want to start by applauding the county for its continuing progressive nature of really leading this county, this country, the state in places that others are unwilling to go. And taking the first steps is always the hardest, as I've learned with every transaction we do. The first one's the hardest, and then things start to move forward. So this is significant. This is important for this county to take this step, to drive the agenda for everybody to participate in. The Green Bank, as Mike had mentioned, and as the county executive and Councilmember Riemer and the county council provided a significant amount of resources just this past February in order to take the Green Bank and take it to another place, a place that supports this exact agenda. Our bill requires that we participate in the electrification of buildings, and we're moving in that direction immediately. We're using our resources to develop technical assistance that will allow property owners to learn how to do this. How do you make buildings electrified that are now gas? So that's an important part of what we want to use that resource for, and then to take that resource and invest it in these properties so that they actually achieve the goals that they set out. We're not standing still. We actually want to say we're doing all things solar right now. We've got a ton in the works right now. We've got 2 community solar projects. We've just closed on 1 affordable housing solar project. We've done a nonprofit working with Joelle and Interfaith Power and Light, where we just closed on our first faith-based, and we've got another 30 in the wings in that one, right? And we're also working with the condominiums, a large resource in this county that needs that electrification. So we're here as a resource. We're grateful for the county to give us the money in order to be that player in the county. And we're here to support this agenda. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Tom. Much appreciated. And thank all of you for joining us for remarks and this vision of an all-electric Montgomery County. Thank you, everyone, for braving the heat, and thank you to all of our speakers for your great remarks today. Tune in tomorrow for the official introduction of Bill 1322 during the council.